Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. All the characters in the story who enter into intimate relationships are over 18 years old. Hi, Chloe. Before we go down to your mother's birthday party, could you come in here for a minute? It was my husband, Mark. We've been married for a year now, and everything is fine. We got married right out of college, and now, being a teacher, he worked in the field where he wanted to. He worked from high school and went to college, reducing student loans to $20,000. We didn't have enough for the wedding I wanted. However, in the end, we spent $40,000 on the wedding of my dreams. At 23, I have everything I've ever wanted. Stable job, enough money, loving husband. I could have had everything I wanted. It's me. If I want something, I get it. Of course, Mark. We were walking around the hotel, killing time before the party. He opened the door to one of the hotel rooms. At a height of 19 floors with a direct view of Lake Michigan, it was beautiful. Is this our room? I didn't think we were going to spend the night. He came over to the table and we sat down. A bottle of French champagne, exactly the kind I like, was sitting there in an ice bucket. The retail price is $40. The room service here should be 3 times as much. Mark opened the cork and filled 2 glasses. It was then that I noticed that there were 3 champagne glasses on the table. We once discussed that maybe we would try the tea. Maybe it's time? Handing 1 glass to me, he made a toast, to you, to me, and stopped, and to Kyle. I almost choked on my drink. I needed to fix it quickly. What's all this about, Mark? Even I could hear the tension in my voice. Then he took the folder and put it on the table. Kyle. You know Kyle. You know Kyle very well, don't you? Look at him in our bedroom on those nights when I had parent-teacher meetings. It was last week, and in this photo I was fishing with your father. I stopped hearing Mark. Mark looked at me and smiled. Babysitter cameras are so easy to buy and install. That's when his cousin Maria came out of the bedroom with her briefcase. Maria was a new lawyer and was as close to Mark as a sister. Her face was stoic. I realized that my marriage was dead. Chloe McMillian, Mark McMillian, is filing for divorce. Now we have to decide how to divide the financial assets. TTTY ambushed me. You ambushed me. Maria was about to say something when Mark waved her away. Ambushed? An ambush? As soon as I found out that my beautiful and faithful wife and her cousin's husband were acting suspiciously, how long ago did this happen? I couldn't say a word and looked at the ground on the floor. Come on, Chloe. How long? It's been months now. I like this buzz. I wanted a thrill, and no one should know. It wouldn't hurt anyone. But does that sound absurd now? Mark poured himself another glass of champagne and a new one for Maria. She looked at me and said, Now about housing. I nodded. Maria put a stack of papers in front of me. She pulled out one of the tables for me. This is a summary table. We propose to divide the current assets 50/50. I breathed a sigh of relief. Mark will be responsible for his outstanding student debts, and you will take care of all outstanding debts for your wedding. The wedding that you've been agonizing over every detail. I gasped, but she continued. Now it turns out about $35,000. I am engaged in retail trade. I received a diploma in the specialty recognition of art. This is the first real job in my life, and certainly not the kind of job that will support me right now. As if reading my mind, she continued. Mark offered support for 6 months. I was still shocked, but I calmed down a little. This will be the exact cost of renting an apartment for these 6 months. The lease term is 7 months, but it's not enough to live on. Mark drained his flute and poured himself another. This is my suggestion. If you didn't want this to happen, you wouldn't have gone after something shameful. He turned sideways and spat into my purse. I was getting indignant. I knew some of my rights and I knew I could get a better deal. Closing my eyes, I began to get angry and think more clearly. It's over. Do the best you can. And if I don't accept your generous offer? Oh, Chloe, that won't be a problem. At your mother's birthday party, which starts in an hour, I will announce that we are divorcing because of your infidelity. Copies of these photos will be available. I'm sure Kyle's wife and your mother will be so pleased. My father is as straight and narrow as he is most of the time. My father and I have had a bad relationship for many years. My mom always let me get what I wanted. We had a fight. We fought all the time because I got what I wanted. He always warned me that it would hit my chosen one. Now he was right. Maria spoke up. We're giving you 5 more minutes to make a decision. You sign this, and I'll apply immediately, or we'll do it publicly. If you sign, the divorce will be because of your differences. Everyone will believe in it, and life will go on. She looked at me and continued, if you disagree, then we go down the public path. We quarrel in the courts and… So if I sign it, neither of you will say a word. Are you keeping these photos a secret and we just didn't get along? I saw both Maria and Mark nodding. I signed it. I want you to know that a few friends moved me out of the apartment shortly before you and I entered this room. If there's something they packed that's not mine, I'll give it back to you. And by the way, in the assets section, we have included the contents of your safe in the total amount. But it was… Maria looked at her. It was a family property. The property received after the wedding. It was. I'm sure Kyle will be pleased that the jewelry that was stolen from the car was priced at retail. I was beaten up. As my father used to tell me all the time, you're playing a game. Pay the cost. I'll sign it. It took a few minutes to sort everything out with the copies scanned and emailed. After she completed these tasks, she turned to Mark. I'm going to the courthouse to file the paperwork. Good luck, Mark. She left without looking at me. It took me a minute to look at my ex-husband. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to hurt you. But he interrupted me. Stop talking nonsense, Chloe. You only love yourself. You only love what you want, what you can get. You were a mistake in my life. I'm leaving now. Come up with a reason why I won't be at your mother's party. I'll be polite to you. I won't say anything about why we're really breaking up. Never think that I will become something more or less for you. Goodbye. He walked out the door. I started to get up, but I realized that my efforts would be in vain. I spent the next 30 minutes before my mom's party drinking the rest of the champagne. He had bad taste. There was no spark or life in him anymore. Nothing could be worse. I made up a story for the guests about Mark not feeling well, and I thought it wouldn't arouse their suspicion. I entered the party room and saw my father's sister start running towards the room by the door. I took a double drink and started chatting with the guests. There must have been 5 different people asking why Mark wasn't there. My story was accepted, but I was not in such a good mood. When the lights were dimmed, we fell silent. Standing there in the semi-darkness, I noticed Kyle and his wife Sandy, my cousin. He didn't look happy at all. I started to worry, but then the lights came on and we screamed in surprise. My mother was delighted, and my father was happy too. She did for those 50 years, coming from a family in which women tended to be sick or infirm by the age of 45. She was still strong. I postponed my loss for a while to celebrate her joy. The dinner went off without incident, and after my father's speech, the crowd began to gather around the tables. I was about to leave when I heard that Sandy and Kyle were getting divorced. Unfortunately, I was at the opposite end of the room from the exit door. I saw the service door to the kitchen open, and before I could reach it, Sandy stood in front of me. I'm sorry. Sandy, I really need to go to the bathroom, if you could. Loudly and clearly she said, you and Mark are getting divorced too. All I heard was the clink of plates from the kitchen. Listen, I'd like to talk, but I really need to go to the bathroom. At that moment, my mother came up to me, grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me. Is it true? Did you do that? Her eyes were wild, while mine were staring at the floor. When I looked up, tears were streaming down her cheeks. Dad stood behind her and just shook his head sadly. He took my mother's hand and left. The rest of the crowd left me too. Our divorce was not disputed. Fortunately, I managed to sublet the apartment for the last 4 months and move into the studio. I got a better job, but it's more expensive retail, as well as all evenings and weekends. There aren't many people around during the week, and I still needed to make new friends. I don't have a car, and the debt load is close to breaking down. It took months, but Mom and Dad are just starting to talk to me. After the police questioned him about the robbery, Kyle not only left the city, but also signed up for the Navy. The last I heard, he was a mechanic somewhere in the belly of an aircraft carrier. All I can hear in my head now is my father saying, "You're playing a game. Pay the cost."